May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be always acceptable unto you, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Please be seated. The Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour, Jesus told us. And in this passage, he's talking about the final coming in glory. But is it not also true that the Son of Man comes into our life in unexpected ways all the time? What does it mean for the Son of Man to come into our life? And on what will Jesus judge us when eventually he comes in glory? Elsewhere in the Gospel according to Matthew, Jesus talks also about the judgment of the nations. In Matthew chapter 25, verses 31 till the end of the chapter, Jesus talks about how when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And then the king will say to those at his right hand, "Come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me." And then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of those who are members of my family, you did it to me." Son of Man comes into our life as strangers to be welcomed, as sick people to be visited, naked people to be clothed. And these are often unexpected. It's not as if God says to us, "Next July 25th, I am going to send to you someone in need of help. And between now and then, I am going to offer you a series of practice tests and for you to study and get ready." No. Someone in our lives who is ill, someone in our lives who is one of my mentors called extra grace required, someone who's maybe a little harder to love. They can show up anytime, unexpectedly. So we need to be ready at any time. And I don't know about you, but that's sort of why I come to church regularly. Because empathy, compassion, charity, they're like any other muscle or habit that needs practice to be effective and strong. Next Sunday, we are going to gather pledges to this church for the coming year. And you might ask yourself, why should I give my money to the church when what the church says is for me to give my money to the poor? How is giving money to the church helpful? Well, if people were by nature such that we could just sort of think, oh, I know the right thing to do. From now on in my life, I'm going to do that and do it faithfully. Well, maybe we wouldn't need church. You know, maybe you at some point in your life have had a sort of direct epiphany, the experience of God. Maybe someone else who had a similar experience thought, okay, I'm set for life. I know who God is. I know that I am loved. I know that I am to love other people. Well, I think that person is sort of like the man who in his 20s runs a marathon and thinks, okay, I don't need to exercise anymore the rest of my life. I ran 26 miles. That's enough. The way human beings are constituted, we need reminders of our why. We need to encounter God's living presence, not as the person I was 10 years ago, but as the person I am now, with all of the circumstances of my life now. Isaiah has a vision of all the nations coming to the mountain of the Lord's house. The Lord's house, the temple, was the place where God's self could be encountered. The living God dwelled. Isaiah could not have predicted that in the future the nations would encounter that same living God through the sacraments, through Christ, or that the temple would be destroyed and the Jewish people would encounter the living God through Torah, through lighting the candles in prayer and breaking the bread around the Sabbath table. God is always unexpected in how God's promises are lived out. At one point, and many still, we Christians believed that the way that all the nations would encounter God and have a relationship with God was through being like us, being Christians like us. The Church of England sent missionaries around the world to teach people how to be Christians like us. And today, I look around and I say, you know, that doesn't seem to be working out too well. We seem sort of like a little holy remnant. God is still at work. Do not know how generations to come will come to the house of the Lord. And it may look different. It may not be just like us now. Probably won't be. But God's presence is working. As we gather, as we support this place where we welcome strangers, where we reenact the Lord's Supper,
Yeah.
where we worship the God of Isaiah in words from generations and centuries ago, but in a new language, with new tunes, new songs, to play in God's plan. We can't anticipate exactly how. We can't anticipate what is to come. But we know that coming here, it shapes us to be people ready to welcome the Son of Man, to welcome the Son of Man in the person who is ill and who we find the strength to visit, in the person who is hungry, and we find the compassion to feed, in the person who is without clothing, we find the charity to clothe, and to welcome Son of Man, the Judge, who somehow in the last day will tell us, yes, you were part of my plan. Welcome. I recognize you. You have been shaped by me. So I invite you, as you are thinking about your pledge this week, give enough that you do not have money left over for waste and licentiousness. But don't give so much that you don't have some left over for feeding the hungry, clothing the naked. That you don't have some left over for responding to those unexpected needs that will come up, where you have an opportunity to do good to your neighbors.